All right, Coach Duke, you're on the spot.
Good.
What's a Gordie Howe hat trick?
Okay, well, all I know is a hat trick is 3 goals in a game.
Okay.
Okay,
About a Gordie Howe.
A Gordie Howe,
hat trick.
I'm totally guessing. Okay, Coach Delano says it all right there. I'm going to say one front hand, one backhand, and one
Yeah.
one at the end of the game penalty.
It
trying
might have
to win
been
it.
this and that.
Yeah, that's it. I
Oh,
was thinking the same way. Gordie Howe hat trick. It's a goal, an assist, and a fight.
JR, that was going to, he threw
That's
that.
perfect.
There's 3 ways to run a football.
Yeah.
That was mine to him later, and we were going
Yeah.
to stumble.
That's perfect. Man, I'm gonna remember that one. I'm gonna write that
Yep.
down. That's
You don't
perfect.
you don't see too many of those anymore. There's no fighting anymore in the game. Not much.
Not
Not
much.
much.
Not
All
much.
right.
No.
All right. Well, see, I'm trying. I got something.
You're
to
learning.
I
You're
got
learning.
something
That's
to learn.
why I know. Here we go.
That's why we're here.
Big congratulations, too, to you guys. I know that Coach Vigneault was named the finals today for the Jack Adams. That's
Yeah.
thing. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Congrats.
he's thank you. He's a hell of a coach. He's something. I'm learning a lot from him. Just the way he handles things, and even the situation we're in right now. It's impressive what he does. It's you'd be impressed. Just the opening speech that he had 2 days ago, like right before camp started, Coach. It's I had goosebumps. Just and trust me, I've been in the league for 26 years. I've seen a lot of speeches, but this one I'm like, wow. And just the way he handled, he brought Oscar into the conversation, brought his parents that are struggling health-wise with the quarantine and everything. I'm like, it was unbelievable. We have one of our players, I don't know if you two guys know, we just finished his treatment for cancer. He had rare bone cancer, and he missed. He was a leading goal scorer at the beginning of the year 7 months ago. And they found a lump in his rib cage, and he had to go through that. He obviously missed the whole season, but he was at the meeting 2 days ago, and coach included him in the meeting, and it was something that I'll remember. It was something special.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
well, God be with him.
Yeah, he's a fighter. Great kid too. Unbelievable kid.
Young guy, one of your up and coming guys.
Yeah, he's 23 years old.
Oh my
Oh
God.
man.
Yeah, he's a
He's
baby.
a cornerstone.
Yeah, he is. You're right, Coach.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Well, let's make sure we help him and do whatever we can for him.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he's doing great.
possible.
He's doing good though. He's done with treatments, and he's skating again, which is great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
JR, Coach Delano, are you ready?
We're ready.
We are.
Welcome back. I'm Coach Duke. He's JR Simmons, and as promised, Coach Frank Delano, all the way from the East Coast as a special guest co-host tonight. We have an amazing guest, one that we don't deserve. And I'm going to intro this thing, coaches, by saying this. I said months ago that there was going to be some amazing things come out of COVID. We were going to learn new ways to do things. There were going to be jobs created that we didn't even know existed. And this podcast is one of them. Okay? Yeah. Friendships, relationships transcend anything that's going on. And at the end of the day, it's about relationships, and that's what matters. A couple of months ago, I emailed Coach Delano out of the blue and say, hey, man, can we talk? We exchanged some emails. He eventually sits down with us one day. We trade some X's and O's, some scheme. And it turns into something that I, for one, am grateful for, and I know JR is too. It turns into a friendship, a relationship, a common goal, a community. And to be honest with you, that's what it takes to get through some of this stuff with COVID. It takes a community. And as promised, I keep my word. I said, if you get us this dude you're telling us about, money to your charity, money to his, and we're going to talk about that. But I'm not even qualified to introduce our guest tonight. I really am not, because this is so above my head. I have a freaking medical degree, and this is above my head right now. I don't even know what's going on here, but I've never seen JR more happy. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never seen more smiles and laughs out of him. Coach Delano has been stoked from the beginning. So I think, JR, the best person to introduce our guest tonight is Frank Delano. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Coach Delano, the podcast is now
Podcast is yours.
It's yours.
It is an absolute pleasure. And first and foremost, thank you again for having me be a part of this. And I'm a small part of this. And obviously the guest of honor here and is someone who I have the distinct pleasure, and I hope he will agree to that, to call each other friends. And we met at the end of the 2010 season. And it kind of ended in heartbreak for us Philly fans and us Flyers, but he brought his sons to our youth football camp, and he sat by the tent, most unassuming human being on the planet, and I walked up to him. I don't even know if he remembers the conversation. I simply said, thank you for a lifetime of memories in that run. And there's some things that I'm sure we'll possibly get into. You watch him play and you watch the way he gives and talk about selfless and all this, break down sports about process and preparation and performance. Everything that you guys stand for with this podcast is wrapped up into Ian Laperriere. And you watch the way he played in his selflessness and more importantly, the human being that he is. Gosh, man, I'm honored. I am blessed to call him a friend. And I am so fired up that we have been able to get him here for you tonight. I know JR is a huge Blues fan. We know that's where he started his career. And we're going to have some fun. But again, he talked to our team a couple years ago. And, I know we were talking a little bit off air before this started about goosebumps. Well, if you watch the video that we showed and you listen to him talk, the passion that's in his voice, there, the hair's still standing up on your neck. But it's an honor to have Coach with us tonight. And I know we appreciate his time when he's in the middle of getting ready to get his team back together and in the middle of this Stanley Cup run that we hope here in Philly. You Mizzou guys might not think so, but we're hoping desperately here in Philadelphia that that's where this thing could lead. But Ian, thank you so much, Coach, for being with us.
Well, thanks for having me. Yes, you can call me friend because I tell everybody in town that you're my friend. And you know what, Coach, I respect you so much with the program you run in town and the kids that you help, the parents, you help those kids becoming men. And, I met kids that played for you years ago, and I'm meeting kids that are playing for you today. And you're doing a hell of a job, and I'm very happy to call you my friend.
Thank you.
So, Ian, I'm going to start here. I am absolutely shocked we have you on this podcast because this started 4 months ago with an assistant principal that I worked with.
Okay.
And we have come to now a NHL coach, a former Blue. And I'm going to start it off here with the first question I thought of when Frank said he's coming on the podcast, and I got up off the floor. And 1,000 NHL games, over 1,000 NHL games in your career. How in the world did you manage to do that?
I just went with passion. You know what? Like, that's the way I was brought up. I wanted to play hockey all my life, and I just did whatever it took. Like, I came, played junior as I was a goal scorer. I was a playmaker, and I came to the NHL, and I realized that I couldn't do that at this level. I did it a little bit, but I'm like, to do it, every day, every game in, game out, I kind of realized at a young age that I couldn't do that. And I just decided to play a different role, more physical. I fought when I had to fight. And I think that's the biggest mistakes and biggest mistake in my sport, like guys that want to play the way they play all their life, they're not willing to change. And for me, that's why I look back in my career. That's why I played for so long, because I was willing to do something that the guy next to me wasn't willing to do. And before I started coaching, I was doing player development for the Flyers. And that was, when I talked to those young guys, and the advice that I always told them, I'm like, listen, you have to be willing to do something that the guy next to you is not willing to do if you want to play in this league and stay in this league. And to look back, that's pretty much what I did, and that's why I played that long.
Coach, it's this is cool. They even give me a chance to ask a couple questions here. So this is pretty neat. But Coach, when you talk about teammates, right? And I know there's bad teammates, there are good teammates, there are teammates that you can't live without, and every team needs. I guarantee anybody who has had the pleasure to play with you would know that you're an all-time great teammate, and I think you exemplified that by the way you played. Obviously that you can't go any deeper than looking at, but in 2009 when against the Sabres, you took a shot, in the puck in the face, and then a couple months later in the Stanley Cup Playoffs, you're willing to do the same exact thing, against the Devils in the first round of the playoffs. With that being said, and knowing that's the way you played, who is someone, right, that you think makes the Lappy all teammate team? Because obviously you're the gold standard of it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? Not just because we're biased because we're friends, but just watch it. Just watch what you did. Who's on your all Lappy team for just that number one teammate? It could be coaching, people you played with, somebody you admired.
Well, somebody I admire all my life, actually, and I had a chance to play with him with the Blues. It's Guy Carbonneau. Guy Carbonneau wasn't a physical player like I was, but he was like, he pretty much like in junior was a goal scorer, and he put points up. He had over 200 points, and that's the guy. He turned pro, and they changed him, and he was willing to make that change that I just talked about. He knew that would extend his career, and he played over 20 years in the league. And growing up, he's older than me. I look up to him, and I remember when I got named captain of my junior team, my dad, and Carbo was the captain of Montreal Canadiens, and my dad, I remember he cut an article in the paper. Carbo talked about what it is to be a captain of your team. You have to represent your team, the logo in front of you, on and off the ice. You got to lead by example on and off the ice. And there was an article on it. I got up one morning, and my dad put that on my at the end of my bed for me to read, and I did. And that's who you're asking me, the guy I look up to, that is on all teammate kind of guy. That's he just got into the Hall of Fame this past year, and that's really the guy I look up to. But I had so many great teammates in my career. Like if I name one, I can name like 100, and they might not play like the way I played, but there's another quality of mine. It's like I took a little bit of everybody. Like one guy would do that, like Joe Sakic. We had nothing in common, zero in common in the game. He didn't play the way I played. I didn't play the way he played. But little example, he was big on stretching and working out. Well, I picked that out of him. During later in my career, I noticed that he was in his 30s when I played with him. He did extra. He did some stretching exercise, and I kind of took a little bit out of him, and that's what I did. And that's why I got so many teammates like that they would make that team for sure.
That's incredible. I love that.
Guy Carbonneau, I'm not mistaken, right? He was with the Canadians when your former boss got right when Hextall ran at him, and a melee breaks out at the Spectrum in the playoff, right?
He ran at Chris
Chelios.
That's it. Yeah, the same team though. They were on the same team, but he went after Chelios in the right corner there because Chelios hit Brian Propp a couple games before he had a concussion and everything, and actually was the ultimate team guy. I never played with him, but everything I hear about him, he was the ultimate team guy. And as a goalie, you don't see that too often, but he went after each other.
Full disclosure, I made every one of Ron Hextall's masks. He was my guy growing up. I had someone cut it. I had the arrow painted on a mask. It was remember the old Milek mask? Okay? And then you would cut them out and put a cage on it. It was great. I butchered every one of his we called them mages at the time, but it was awesome. He was my guy. He was my guy growing up.
That's incredible. That's awesome. So, Coach, I'm going to tell you one story. It's the only hockey story I got.
All right,
Okay, and I'm
I'm
going to ask you
ready.
a question. So, I'm dating a girl in high school. We're not going to name her. We're not going to talk about that. I'm dating a girl in high school. She's big into hockey. Her family's big into hockey. We go to one hockey game. I sit on the top level behind a pole. I don't know what the hell is going on. The puck is moving. I'm trying to keep up. I don't even know. But I paid a bunch of money because, they didn't pay for me to go. I paid a bunch of money to go there. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I never really found that love for hockey that you're talking about. But I did develop an appreciation for, yo, dude, that hockey puck is hard as heck. And people are getting punched in the face all the time. So this is the real deal. So 1,000 games in the NHL. Are you kidding me? That's incredible. So I want to go back to that first day. I want to go back to it's 1992, and you get drafted by the St. Louis Blues,
Hmm.
and what that feels like, what that means to you, and what was going through your head. Were you like, "Holy cow, I made it," or was it, now it's time to start working even harder?
Yeah, you know what? It's the draft was in Montreal, and if
Oh,
people didn't figure out,
Oh, wow.
I'm French Canadian.
Wow.
If you guys didn't pick on my accent yet, but
I thought
it
it
was
was
in,
South Jersey. I thought
yeah,
it was
yeah.
like South
That's
Jersey.
what I tell people. I'm from Bayonne. It's North Jersey. I'm from Bayonne, and no, but it was in Montreal, where I'm from, and there's a list, just like football. There's a list of who's going to get drafted the next year and everything, and there's like 12 round at the time, I think, and I was listed in the top 4 rounds. And that, I was like, I didn't have a great season, but I'm like, okay, I'll get drafted in the top 4 rounds. And and meanwhile, the European countries open up, like Russia, Czech Republic, and all that. They all start drafting those guys. They weren't part of that list, and by that mix of both event there, I got drafted in the 7th round, 3 rounds later, and I'm in Montreal. All my family is there, grandpa, grandma, everybody is there. And my agent comes to me after the 5th round, which I was supposed to go in the 4th round. He goes to me, goes like, "You can go home and we'll call you if you get drafted." I'm like, wait a
Wait a
minute.
minute.
Right,
Wait a
right.
minute. I got
Back
mom, I
up.
got grandma, I got everybody here. Well, I got to wait and see. And fair enough, like Ron Caron called my name in the 7th round. And at that point, I just wanted to hear my name because I knew it didn't matter if I was 1st round, 7th round, 9th round. I knew I was going to make my place in camp. Nobody, when you get to camp, top 1st round picks, they look at them a little bit differently. But after that, everybody is the same. And I knew that I'd go to camp and show them what I could do. And actually, I had a pretty good camp that first camp. And after that, some guys got drafted way before me, and they never played one game in the NHL. And I knew it was a tough day. I'll be honest with you. It was great to be drafted, but just the wait and you worry about you, but you worry about everybody else. You don't want to disappoint people. And but looking back, it was such a small part of my career. And after that, it's I had a pretty good run.
Amazing. Love it.
Coach, you won the Masterton Trophy in the
Hmm.
2010-2011 season. And I'm not too sure any of our listeners know as much more as Coach Duke knows about hockey. So can you talk about that trophy a little bit, why you won it, and just kind of explain that whole situation to them?
Well, they give that trophy to people that represent their sports, that are passionate about their sports, that pretty much like Coach Delano described me. That's people that will do anything for their sports. And for me, that's the year after I took that puck those 2 pucks to the face, but that last puck I had to retire because I had bleeding in my brain. And that second puck I took was in the playoffs in April 20 whatever, and I took the puck to the eye, and I had like 75 stitches and bruising in my brain. I missed a full month. We played Boston, we played Montreal, we played Chicago, but I missed the Boston series. And I came back against Montreal. I still had symptoms. You know, I was 37, 36 years old at the time. I knew it was my last kick at the can there. And I played with concussion syndromes, which is not the best, smartest thing to do. I don't recommend it to anybody, but that's the way I was. That's the way I played. And football is the same way. Those guys do the same. Hockey players, we do the same. I played in the semifinals, played in the finals. We lost in the finals, unfortunately, against Chicago. Went home, and I've had concussions. I played with concussions all my career, and in the summer, I was able to shake them off, if you want. And I trained in that summer, but I still had symptoms. I wasn't quite right. Came to camp the next year and played 2 preseason games, and my head was going to explode. We were in Minnesota. I called my trainer. I'm like, I got to talk to you. Went to see him. I'm like, listen, I'm done. I'm 37 years old. I got 2 beautiful kids at home. I got a beautiful wife. I just can't put my life on the line. And I'm telling my story here, but that's why I won that award, Masterton Trophy. It's somebody that's willing to sacrifice for the game itself, not only on the ice, off the ice. But the way I saw it, because that following year, 2010, I didn't play 1 game, and I got the award at the end of that year. But the way I've always been, you know, not a nice guy, but always talk to everybody, to the reporters, anybody, fans, and I felt like the fans voted for me to pretty much say thank you to my career, like how nice I was to them and open, like I was always available to everybody. And I really felt like when they awarded me to that award, it was more like a thank you for your career. We just want, that's a reporter's way to thank me for my 17-year career. And, you know, it's something was special just to go to Vegas for that award. I took my mom and my kids and my family there, and it was a time for me. It was a place for me to say thank you to the people that really means the world to me.
And
Incredible.
with, you know, Philly, I know sometimes gets a bad rap, and we earn it. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But the moment that
where you going, Coach? That's my best, and I've had great memories of my career. This is my best memory of all time.
He and tell me stop me if I'm wrong. We didn't plan this, but he gets right after he took one of the pucks and he became visible back on the, like he wasn't on the ice. He was standing by the glass, and fan vision and the TV camera. I'm at home watching it. You could hear the ovation.
Wow.
And the applause and the excitement, because he represents everything that Philadelphians get sometimes a bad rap for, but everything was right about that moment. And you saw tears in his eyes, and here's Mr. And I had minimal relationship with him at that point, except what you saw on the ice. And I thought, honestly, looking back at it, it was one of the most awesome moments.
Yeah, that was during the Boston series there. Like, obviously I didn't play, like I said. Yep. I was in the room, and our PR guy, Zach Hill, he's awesome. He was awesome through that time, but he grabbed me. He's like, Lappy, you won the toughest guy in the NHL award. We're going to put you in the Zamboni corner there, and they're going to put a camera on you. They just want to announce the award there. And fair enough, I'm there, I'm waiting, and it was between a TV commercial and and all of a sudden they show me on the Jumbotron, like you said, Coach, like it was something that that's one thing about the Philly fans. Like, they love you or they hate you. There's no in between, you know, and that's how I feel about, you know, I've said that many times. If I had to pick a place where those 2 incident or accident happened, Philly would have been the place, because people appreciate that. They appreciate the hard work. They appreciate that people sacrifice themselves for their team. And for me, it was just something I'll never forget. It was just great memories.
And Coach, kind of piggyback and just taking right where we are, kind of the conversation that we're in on this, and about coaching. Obviously, coaches, we put a huge emphasis on starting fast, and kind of finishing even faster, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball, closing out a quarter. Football, we always talk about winning that middle eight, last 4 minutes of the half and the first 4 minutes of the second half. And you're talking about, unfortunately, in 10 when you weren't in the Boston series. Well, that was, we're all going to remember, for us in Philly, May 14, 2010, but 3-0 series, the Flyers are down 3-0 in the series in the middle of this Herculean comeback, right? They get to a game 7, and next thing you know, you go down 3 goals. You're down 3, 15 minutes into the game.
In Boston.
In Boston, right? At game 7. 2 best words in sports, right? Game 7, right? Then you look, and then right before the end of the period, JVR, right? Little toe drag off the defenseman's stick, goes in, right? And then Hartnell, to start the second period, just under that 3-minute mark, scores and gets it back to 3-2, right? And then obviously, Briere ties it up, I think, in the second period.
Yeah.
And then Simone Gagne scores with a little bit back, maybe 5 minutes or so left in the third, right? So everyone's obviously in this sound's going berserk. But you're talking about no better case in point of starting fast, which the Bruins did, and the way you guys won that middle section. As a coach in practice, is there attention to detail to that part of the game? The preparation that goes into practice is simulating that middle segment, or, because every coach talks about finishing strong, and I know it's no different on the ice, but is there anything that kind of goes into, hey, we got to prep to win those minutes?
Well, it's more like, how can you say that? It's more about how you control the puck. Like, if you have a lead, what to do with that puck. Don't take as many chances. Don't turn the puck. You never want the players to turn the puck over.
Correct.
But it's more like, at the end of a period, let's make sure you don't try to play that's not there. More than, I don't know about football, but in hockey, it's more like be a little bit safer. You don't want to be on your heels. You want to play on your toes. But if it's not 100% play, don't make it. We're up by a goal, or there's 5 minutes left in the third or in the second. You hate to give up goals at the end of a period. These are killers. So it doesn't matter if it's in the first, second, or third. You give a goal at the end of a period, it kills the momentum, kills you. You go back to the room, everybody's down, everybody's mad. And that's one thing you try to work on that in practice. You don't want to come in the room and say, all right, boys, don't make any plays at the blue line. Or you try to teach that. You try to talk to them in practice, and hopefully it's going to be ingrained in their head, and they're going to do it during the game.
Awesome.
Coach, I've got a 2-part question for you here.
Yep.
The first part is going to be a selfish question just for me personally. How fast was Sergei Fedorov?
Well, faster than me about that. Like he was, that's not too hard. 90% of the guys were, but he was not only fast. I think, his edges were unbelievable. Just the way he could move on the ice, like sideways, and like, forward, obviously, like, those guys are special. You're talking about a Hall of Famer, elite player there, but it was more like his edge work was something. Like, the Detroit era, they had Datsuk, Zetterberg, all those guys like Fedorov, Lidstrom. You can go down the list there. They had a hell of a team, but what made them special, yes, they were fast, but they were really like, they had great edges, sideways. They could move one way to the other, and, without you being able to hit them because they were so smooth out there. And I think Fedorov, that was one of his best quality.
He always looked so smooth skating, and as a Blues fan, we hated Detroit. I mean, you hate Detroit, you hate Chicago. Yeah. I mean, that's just how it goes. Yeah. And then the second part, the Flyers named you the director of player development in 2012. I'm curious, what was the biggest challenge for you going from being a player right into being now in charge of their player development?
I was traveling alone. That was the biggest thing. I like to be around. That's why I love coaching more than development. I love development. Why? Because it kept me in the game, and also give me a chance to get to know the new generation. My generation is totally different than the kids that I'm coaching now, and those kids are the kids that I was working with when they were in junior and everything. But I love the job. I love working with the kids. I love to do. I was running a development camp here once a year for 3 years at our practice facility. It was great doing that one-on-one work, or work with the boys and talk give them advice about what it is to be a pro and everything. And that was a big part of my job. Going for dinner after a game, just get to know those kids, get to know mom and dad. That was something I really enjoyed. But what drove me crazy, it's like I'd go to Seattle for 3 days by myself, in a hotel room. You got all day to kill, and the games are at night. You got nothing to do in the afternoon. I'd go work out, but that's 2 hours. After that, that was just the dead time. It really killed me, I guess. But when I got the opportunity to get the coaching job here, I just I told them I had that was the ultimate goal, to be into coaching. And fair enough, Paul Holmgren gave me the opportunity like 3 years into my job.
Pretty awesome to me. I mean, I'm just enjoying sitting here listening. This is like historic for me. I'm going to ask a question that I really want to know the answer to.
Okay.
In baseball, there's certain things a coach tells the ump that automatically gets you tossed. You could say a few things that you're getting tossed, right? In football, it seems to be that most fights are started when one player says something about the other player's mom. That's like an automatic. So in hockey, what is it that starts the fight every time without question? You just know it's going to happen. Or is some of this like, so-and-so checked this dude into the glass the other night. First chance we get, he's getting knocked out. How does this work?
Yeah, that was more my generation than today's game. Today's changing a little bit. You might see a fight when there's a huge hit and everything, but when I played, it was more like there's, like the like the rules that nobody wants to talk about. Like,
absolutely. Those are the ones I want to talk about.
Well, you know what? We go with the Blues there. If somebody went after Brett Hall, well,
right,
fight for sure. If somebody hit him too hard or bump into him when he shouldn't, somebody like Tony Twist, Kelly Chase would go right after that guy, no matter who they were.
Like, I know those names. I know those.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. You better know those names. Let's say like you're down by 2 goals and the team is soft. Like, like guys are not going, well, that's part of your job, but it was part of my job too. But I wasn't tough like Twister or Kelly Chase at all. I fought my own weight class, but I knew if my team was down 2-0 and the guys were like no response on the bench, everybody's down, I'd go pick the other guy. I knew, before the game who's willing to fight. You just look by the stats, by reputation. You go after him. You ask him. Most of the time, especially against me, they knew it would be an easy fight. They'd say yes, but that's there's a couple of reasons that fighting back. I'm talking 80s, 90s, 2000 when I played was more like for those reasons that guys would be fighting just for some guys would fight just for the heck of it, just to prove that they're tougher than the other guy. You do that when you're in your early 20s. But when you get older, you just pick the right spot to, you fight for your teammates. That's why I told my kids when they were little, and they'd be like, "Dad, why do you fight so much?" Well, I fight for my teammates. I used to fight like there's years I fought 25 times a year, and my kids were like asking me why. Well, somebody went after a top player, or the team wasn't responding. Daddy had to do something. And but again, you don't see that too often in our game today.
Coach Delano mentioned that you took a slap shot to the mouth during the first period. You got stitched up in the second period, came back out and played the third period. Mm-hmm. What is it about hockey players that they're willing to do that? Because baseball players get hit with a pitch, they're out for like a month, and it's like, what is the difference there?
I don't know. Maybe, you know what? All our life, like and that's part of the problem too. Like I'll circle back to that. All our life, like you get rewarded because you're the toughest kid on the team. Not fighting. I'm talking about blocking shots and hitting, and parents in the stands where a little guy, after games, they're like, "Great job! I love what you did," and everything. Coaches reward you when you're a little guy when you do that, and when you come to that incident that you talk about against Buffalo, when I took that slap shot to the face there. It's in the back of your mind, I was fine. I knew it was okay. I'm like, if I'm okay, I'm going to go back out there. But for me, it's part of the problem because we're brainwashed all our life to play with pain, with concussions, and all of a sudden now everybody's like, why did you play with your, when I played in the finals, why did you play with a concussion? You knew you were concussed. Well, all my life I've been, everybody called me a warrior because I did that. And I think it works with the mental part of it. Like, you get brainwashed about that. And I think today, I'm sure in your sports the same way, like younger age, that's where coaches and parents and players, we have to do a better job towards those little guys to teach them. If you're not okay, it's okay not to play. But when I was younger, I played through that. And to go back to the incident you're talking about, they brought me in with Chris Pronger and a couple other guys because they were lacking of leadership with the Flyers. They had great young players, Mike Richard, Jeff Carter, Hartnell, Kimmo Timonen, but they needed veteran players that, to teach those younger guys what's the right way to play. And for me, in the back of my mind, they brought me in for that. I knew I was okay. It's my time to show everybody in the room that if you're okay, you have to play. And I had 100 stitches over here, and I lost 8 teeth in my mouth. And I had a big bubble there. I didn't care. I'm like, I'm okay. My head's fine. I knew my head was fine when I took this one. The other one, I wasn't fine. But the mouth one, I was in pain, but I knew I could battle through it and play. But at the end of the day, for me, was the biggest message. It was the big message to our young guys. I remember James Van Riemsdyk, who's playing with us again right now, was sitting to my left, right next to me. And he's looking at me with those big eyes when I got that big scar after when I'm sitting there tying my skates to go play in the third. But for me, he remembers that. We talk about it now. I'm coaching him, and he remembers that moment. If I could help a little bit those young guys, well, I did my job.
That's exactly why we needed to bring Coach in to talk and we asked him, hey, can you please talk to our guys? And we were kind of having a possible leadership issue. And, so we asked him to kind of talk about leadership and courage to our guys. And Coach, now I ask you, obviously, with all great teams, right? At some point you look around either to your coaches or if you're playing, you kind of look and you have that it moment. You're like, we got something special here. Hey, we got a chance. Is there a specific time as a player or as a coach that you guys are looking around, or maybe in your coach, you're like, man, we're either in the middle of making something special or we have a chance here? And if so, besides, I know you probably just touched on it, leadership, what's that main ingredient that kind of leads to that moment?
I think it's a feel that you have. Like during games, you're on the bench and you feel like you might be down 2-0, but just the reaction of the bench there, or you feel the players, the way they talk, the way they react to the play on the ice, you have something special. And, before the COVID happened, we won 9 out of 10 games. We're the second hottest team since November. We were the second hottest team since November in the league. And, you had that feeling like and trust me, I've been coaching here for 7 years, and Coach, we had ups and downs and more downs than ups. And this year I could see the difference. Just reaction of guys like, Giroux's been here forever. That's Claude Giroux for you guys. Jake Voracek, same thing. Like, you see their body language or demeanor on the bench changing from this year, from last year to this year, because the team's playing better. We're winning. They believe what we're teaching. And at the end of the day, boys, it doesn't matter what sport you're coaching. Your job's doesn't matter what system you want to coach either. Your job's to have that team believe in what you're teaching them. And there's no bad, I don't know about football, but in hockey, there's no bad systems. You have to adjust with the team you have. I get that. But at the end of the day, you need those guys to believe in what you're feeding them, you're teaching them, and you do have that feel on the bench when those guys believe in what you're telling them.
So, Coach, who was one guy that you played against? You're like, I ain't messing with this dude.
There's a lot of those. Well, Bob Probert, Twist, Tony Twist, Kelly Chase, name it, all that, those heavyweights guys. I had a couple fights with them because not by choice, trust me. But Proby jumped me, and he was in Chicago back then. And I'll tell you the story. It's a pretty good story. We're in Chicago, and I'm in LA at the time, and taking a face-off at the end of the game. And during the game, I've been running around hitting people, and we're up by 3 goals, and there's like 30 seconds left. And Larry Robinson, which I love, he's one of my favorite human beings on earth. He works for the Blues now, and he sent me for the last face-off of the game. But in my mind, and everybody on the bench are thinking, what are you doing? Like, I've been running around everywhere to take my head off. We're up by 2 or 3 goals. I go on, I was in the middle back in the center. I go to take a face off, and we're in Chicago. They have the last change, and they have already 4 goons on the ice. Basil McRae, Jim Cummins, and Russell, all those big guys.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them. And the one in the middle, Jeff Shantz, he's not a tough guy, but they have their last change. And all of a sudden, the door opened on the Chicago's bench, and Probert comes on the ice. I'm sure he never took a face-off before that, or he never took a face-off after that. But he's right. And he never took a face-off there either, because he's right in front of me. And he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, I'm not fighting. Sorry, excuse my French, but I'm like, I'm not fighting you. He's like, shut the fuck up. I'm like, holy cow. Fair enough. The linesman didn't barely drop the puck there, and Probert just cross-checked me in the face, and all of a sudden all else broke loose. Like, everybody dropped their glove. And the good thing, I had a friend, Basil McRae, is a friend of mine still to today, and he became a better friend after that. Right, he grabbed me right away. He's on the other team. He grabbed me right away and put me down, and he's like, "Matt, please stay there." I'm like, okay, I'll stay there. And everybody's trying to grab me and everything, and I'm laughing now, but trust me, I didn't laugh then. And to finish that story, like, after the game, we flew to another city. I don't remember where, but I swear to God, guys, I woke up in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, waking up, standing in between both. I had a roommate in between both beds with both of my fists in the air like this, and I just woke up like that. The nerves are just having. Probert's the toughest guy who ever played our game. Ask anybody. Everybody's going to tell you he's the toughest guy who ever played the game. I was so nervous, so like the stress level was crazy. I woke up in the middle of the night, right in between both beds with my fists up. It was something that I miss a lot about the game. But those moments, I don't really miss it. Just
is anyone envisioning Slapshot right now? The movie.
Yes,
that's what I'm envisioning. Oh yeah. The Ogle tour. What?
That's it. You know what, Coach? I say that people ask, "Do you miss the game?" Yeah, I do miss the game. I miss my teammates. I miss the locker room. But I do have a little bit of that, by coaching, which is great. But one thing I don't miss is that, the night before the game, I knew I did something the game before, and I knew somebody's going to be waiting for me that night. And you go to bed, you don't sleep well. The afternoon nap, you don't sleep at all. And you get to the rink, and I don't miss that part of the game at all.
Coach Duke, we should have made you watch Slapshot before you came on with Coach Laperriere tonight. Yeah. That movie is, if you haven't watched Slapshot, you can't be a true hockey fan.
It's a classic.
It is awesome.
JR, he still hasn't given me your number, because I already sent him stuff of Mr. Softy. I sent him stuff of the Mummers. He won't give me your stuff. I got nothing.
That's awesome.
I'm not offended.
Oh, this is incredible. I'm getting a movie list. I'm getting a history list. I'm learning another sport. Yeah. I mean, really, let's be honest. Did you have to take boxing lessons or like some wrestling stuff? Or was this just you learned on the go? How do you do this?
Well, you learn, like in junior, you're allowed to fight. You kind of learn your way into fighting. You have to, especially when I played in the 90s, like a lot more fighting than there is today in junior too. But I knew it was going to be part of my role when I took a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And, you just try to improve your skills if you want. And back then it was a skill, maybe, guys are not goons, but you had to know how to protect yourself not to get hurt.
There's a lot of fight talk. Why do we not want to reference your 2005 season? No?
What happened?
21 goals there. You lit the lamp 21 times.
Yeah.
Why don't we want to talk about that? There's a Wayne Gretzky trapped inside of you.
I don't know. I had a brain cramp, Coach. I don't know what happened. You know what? That's the thing. Like, okay, I'll tell you what happened, and I know exactly what happened. 2004, we got locked out. They locked us out for a full year in 2004. And the crazy me, I'm like, okay, that's my chance to train harder than the next guy. You know, I was telling you about what are you willing to do? What what the guy next to you is not willing to do. Well, in my mind was like, I'm going to train, because I knew a bunch of those guys would take the year off or 6 months off and, coming back into shape afterwards. But I'm like, that's my time. That's my edge. I'm going to train like an animal. And I did. Came to Chem in great shape. New team. I just signed there as a free agent. Beautiful place. Colorado was awesome. And everything started going in. But looking back, I know why, because I was in better shape than most of the guys on our team. It goes back to, what are you willing to do? And that's why I try to teach my own kids. I get a little lacrosse player, and I think he's got that in him. And
neither one of your kids are little. Neither
one
of them are little.
You're right.
They're getting bigger.
They're not little. They're not little. Tristan and Zach are big boys now. They're men. One's going to college, and the other one's close to college, which is crazy.
Great kids. Great kids.
We'll keep
it's
them.
amazing how fast it goes, right?
It's crazy. So crazy. I got a flag from Towson. That's where he's going to school, and I look it up. When I come in the house, I see that. I'm like, I just can't believe he's 18 and he's off to college soon.
I'm dealing with something similar with a kid going into his senior year, and I'm like, dude, you were just knee high, and we were learning how to play catch. How does this happen? But I have a friend of mine, a really close friend of mine, who taught me the game of lacrosse. Okay. I moved to Chicago to go to med school. I know nobody there. I know one person actually in Chicago. 2 weeks into me being in Chicago to go to med school, it's just me and my wife. We're in a city of millions of people. We're from little bitty towns in Missouri. That guy moves, and now we know nobody, right? So we're in this city, and I see a football team across the street practicing. And I run over there and beg to carry water, to do the laundry, to clean up the field. I don't care. I just need to be involved with something, because that's all I knew, right? That's it. That's all I knew. And when I found out that you were coming on the show, I had to ask the guy who gave me that job to coach football and to coach lacrosse and to help pay for me to eat while I was in medical school, because he's an enormous hockey fan. Kids play hockey all year round. They're traveling everywhere to play, loves it. I had to ask him, what do you want me to ask on this podcast? And he's a coach himself. He's won more state titles in lacrosse than, I think anybody in the state of Illinois. He goes, here's what I want to know, because he's a huge preparation guy. How does he and the staff prepare when they're going into a huge game, when they're going into a game 7, when they're going into the playoffs? What do they do differently, or do they do anything different at all? Is it just as loose as they can go, or is it, let's start making little tweaks and adjustments here? So Mike Foyer, wherever you're at, buddy, I owe you my life. I owe you a bunch of stuff. This question is for you.
We don't really change game by game. Like, again, that's a new stuff we have this year. We're getting to the playoffs in 3 weeks there. That's something that we start working on right now. But it's pretty much what we did all year. Like, you obviously in the playoffs, you play against the same team for 7 games or less. It's easier to prepare because you see them all the time. But during the year, there's a lot of preparation going through. You look at, all the system they're playing. The thing with the way we do things here, let's say we look at Pittsburgh. Okay, what they do, and we look at how can we beat that? If they're 1-2-2 in the neutral zone, which there's 2 systems in the neutral zone. Well, we'll put clips together, what they do, and we'll grab clips how you can beat that system. But to go to the playoffs, it's going to be the same thing. The only thing in the playoffs was different. We're going to go individual, like guys, we'll have a detail pre-scout on every player. Like on every single player, their strength and their weaknesses, what they like, how they can get beat, and that's from the number 7 defenseman to the number 1 defenseman to everybody, and that's a big list. But guys will have a booklet there. They'll read everything about each and every player that we're going to play against. But during the year, it's more about system. It's about what they're going to do and what we're going to do to beat them.
Coach, you guys are about ready to head up to Toronto, I believe is where you guys are going. The Blues are headed out to Edmonton. And I was looking at the schedule because I think, do you guys have like an exhibition against Pittsburgh? Okay. And, you know, for even me looking at it, and I followed hockey for a while, can you kind of explain a little bit of this playoff format that they're about to do? Because I saw you guys are playing the Bruins, the Capitals, the Lightning, and how that works and how people are going to advance.
Well, it's going to be in the playoffs. You'll have 16 teams total, 8 teams on each side, like a regular playoff. But right now, because the season was so short and there were teams battling to get into the playoffs, there's 8 teams. The first 4 teams, like where you got us, Tampa, Boston, and Washington, we're in the playoffs no matter what. But you have 8 other teams that those teams are going to play against each other, best out of 5, to get into the playoffs. Well, because we're for the first 4 seeds in our conference here, we're going to play against each other. We're going to play Washington once, Boston once, Tampa Bay once, and hopefully we'll win those games. And if we do, we'll climb to number 1 seed. We have a chance to go up and down. The worst case scenario will be 4th, but we get possibility to climb to 3rd or 2nd or 1st even. If we win all our games, we'll have a chance to go up. But it's different, it's special, but I really do think that this year is going to be one of the toughest Stanley Cups to win because everybody's healthy. There's a bunch of guys that were supposed to be done for the year. I'm thinking about Getsel in Pittsburgh. You got Jones in Columbus. Those guys were supposed to be done for the year. And now because they had extra time, they'll be back. And I feel like it's going to be a hard one to win.
Well, even with the Blues, Tarasenko was out. And now they just activated him. And Berube said he's flying, which I'm like, well, that's good for us. Definitely change things.
It's going to be, it's going to change. And also when you go to an 82-game season, you might not be injured, but you're hurt. You're banged up. You're never 100%. I'm not saying the guys are 100%, but they're closer to 100% now than they would be in regular times. And that's why I feel like it's going to be better than some people think.
Yeah.
Well, as fans, we are dying to see live something, right? So, but honestly, you kind of touched on it with, you know, I know from a Flyer standpoint, you know, JVR, he was at a broken foot at the time of injury, so everybody is. Game's going to get bigger, faster, stronger. You're not pacing yourself for 82 now. You're just, it's a sprint now, you know, and there's nothing better than Stanley Cup hockey. You know, it's right, like you're glued in the 10:30 games. Like this is the West Coast drop. I love, oh my gosh, it's wonderful. But do you think the overall is the atmosphere with having nobody going to be in the stands? Is it going to be tough being isolated, you know, and is there overall any type of general concern about, hey, what is going on in the rest of the world right now with this? So it's kind of a weird question.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions like that, but you know what, for the fans part, I love UFC, I love MMA, I watch it, and for me, it's the same show. Like I watch every card that there is out there. I watched last weekend, and I'll watch next one, which is tonight. And the fight's the same. Athletes are athletes, and the cup's on the line. It might be an adjustment, and I don't think it's going to be because there's no fans. I think it's because like you go from training camp to playoffs. It's going to be an adjustment for the players, but I'm not really worried about the show that the guys are putting on the ice. I'm actually looking forward. I was more worried about camp, and that was our 3rd day of camp today. But I look at the guys today, and the first 3 days they look great. They look in great shape. They took care of themselves, and and I'm sure it's going to carry into when the playoffs starts. And for the COVID thing, like everybody's worried about that, but we'll be in we get tested quite a bit, like 3 times a week. And when we get to Toronto, we'll get tested every day. And we'll be in a bubble. Like we won't be able to go out. We're gonna get there. We're gonna be quarantined for, I think it's 5 days. And after 4 negative tests, we'll be able to come out of a room and whatever. There's a big protocol. They're still finishing the final touch, if you want. I feel like our biggest worry is right now. Like right now, we're in a bubble at the rink, but everybody's at home. I think it's going to be to fight. We're leaving not this Sunday, the next Sunday, like a week and a half, 10 days. It's more like guys are going to have to be responsible. If it goes from coaches to players, just stay home and don't see as many people as you'd like, and hopefully we'll get to Toronto with no cases.
I hope so, Coach. I hope so, because this isn't going to end anytime soon. It sounds like.
Oh, you're a doc. You tell us about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to send you pictures of what he does.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I'm
right.
not that kind of doc. Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, I am. I'm a foot and ankle surgeon, so I'll be happy to, whatever you like. But you're taking the right precautions. You're taking the right precautions. Your feet are good. Awesome. Yeah. You're taking the right precautions. You're doing everything that you need to do, which is the way it should be. And I think that if there's any school districts listening, which I don't know if they are or not, I think everybody's waiting for somebody else to make a decision, right? How about you just take some steps, use common sense, be smart, have calm, focused, intentional movements, and we'll get through this. And that's my 20 seconds on.
But
COVID.
that's the problem. You just said it. Be smart. Take the precaution. You look around. Right. Whatever. I don't want to go there either. But they're reopening stuff, and everybody thinks it is like it was before. And it's
right.
People don't. We got to take baby steps. But again, that's for another blog, another show. We don't need to talk about that.
Well, I'll
wear
finish
a mask about that.
Yeah, I'll finish that with it's exactly what you said. Be willing to do what the guy next to you won't do. Yeah. And that's how we get through it, right? Yeah. That's how we get through it. So I'm going to bring it back to hockey. I'm going to ask you another question. Here's what I want to know, because I think about this all the time as it pertains to baseball and football, because those are my 2 sports. If there's a rule in hockey that you could change, what would it be?
Oh, boy.
I'll tell you mine first, okay? Because I've never got to tell anybody. For baseball, I would like to make it, if you leave 10 dudes on base, you lose a run. Okay, so if you strand 10, be quiet, JR. You're the baseball guy. You don't want it. Yeah, and you're a hitting coach, JR. Yeah. So listen, if you can't advance those dudes, we're taking something away from you, and make the game more interesting. Now, nobody's saying it's a perfect rule, but I just think about these things. Okay, so you got the floor. What rule would you change and why?
I don't know, like the old school player in me, like the instigator rule, like it drives me a little bit crazy because it gives liberty to little guys that would never play as tough as they play. And, but that will never change. The game's going in a totally different direction. And I'm okay with that. I'm not a dinosaur. I respect that. But I like the way our game is right now. If you look at all the rule change that they made, they took the red line away years ago. But that made a change in our game, and I think our game is great right now as it is. If we can get back on the ice and show people, and to go back with Coach Delano was saying, like I feel like, and I'm the same way. People want to see sports. They want to see something to disconnect from our reality that nobody likes right now. And I hope that we can pull this and play in 3 weeks and give 2 hours of entertainment for people at home.
Coach, I really hope Philly can make it all the way to the end this year, because I'm going to be pulling for Philly in the East, for St. Louis in the West. And it'd be pretty cool if there was a matchup there, because a year ago I saw something I never thought I would see, which was the Blues win the Cup. and it was
And being the last team in November. And,
yes,
yeah.
just
You know what?
unbelievable.
I'm not, you know what, as an old player, when you're not in the playoffs or you lose in the playoffs, you never wish, you hope that the cup get lost and nobody wins the cup.
Yeah.
Last year was the first time in my career or life that I was fully, Craig Berry's a friend of mine. I coach with him in Philly here. He's awesome and I'm so happy for him. And that's why, like last year when he was in the finals, I was really pulling for it. He's a great guy, great coach, and he proved everybody that he can win the big trophy, and he did.
There was an older gentleman down at the parade in St. Louis. I went there, who had a sign that said, "Now I can die in peace." And I'll never forget because Vince Dunn went over and held the thing up, and everybody went crazy. It was a lot of fun. So, my last question for you: if Philly wins the cup this year, can Bill, Frank, and I get a good seat at the parade so we can see you go by with it?
If there is a parade,
This is going to be our luck. This is going to be our luck.
Yeah, it's gonna be on Zoom if it's if there's a parade. I mean, but you know what? That's the bad thing. Like we win the cup, there won't be any parade. But you know, this something we'll worry about down the road.
Yeah.
Well, I'm coming to your house because I know where you live.
Yeah,
We'll
that'll be in my
buddy.
house. We won't have a parade. We'll celebrate in the back.
We will. Yes, we will.
For sure.
Add two more to that list.
Here we go.
I'm in.
Come on down.
I'm in.
This has been awesome from my perspective because you and I have talked a million times, and just really to be able to. And I know it's our final question here, but it's more of a comment here where, again, we made mention of this off air, and we talked about Coach Vigneault today getting named a finals for the Jack Adams. So a huge congratulations to you and the staff, because listen, we're all coaches to some degree, not at your level. You and I always talk about that as well, but we know the value of having great assistants, and we're only as good as our assistants. So I'm sure everyone in the kind of from your film guys to your trainers, staff, all kind of gave a little fist pump today and was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, and he's great for that. Like he makes us feel appreciated, and he's appreciated, and he's yeah. You know what? I'm learning so much from him, from his preparation, and he trusts his staff. Like he's asking everybody to do their job, but he's not on top of you. He's not looking at everything you do. He trusts his staff big time, and I think it's a big part of being a successful coach.
This has been incredible, and I promise Coach Delano, and I am a man of my word, that if you came on this show, JR and I, as the owners of Breakdown Sports, are going to donate money to a charity of your all's choice, and we are going to do it. So
Yes,
I would like to know, what charity would you like us to send a check to? And we will write a letter along with it if you want it in anyone's name, but that money will be donated in that person's name to that charity. Tell us the charity and tell us why.
Well, we have the Flyers' Wife Carnival here. It's been going on since the 60s, since the team got in town, and they raise like millions of dollars every year. Like I think it's $2 million every, and it's one event. Like during one, I did at the Wells Fargo's our arena there. There's like a bunch of fans. They come, they pay to get autograph from the players, coaches, and minor league, and there's like all kind of games in the stadium, and they've been raising a lot of money, and they share that money with Children's Hospital, Ronald McDonald House, all those nice nice hospital, but great hospitals, great facility for families and everything. And yeah, that would be the foundation. I would direct you guys to send that check for sure.
Happy to do it. Won't delay.
Thank you.
We'll get it sent out as soon as we can. I don't know if any of your players will watch this, if they'll listen to it, Coach, but it's 10:30 here in Missouri. It's 11:30 here on the East Coast. Is there anything that you would like to say to your players or to your fans?
Go to bed.
Go to bed. I love it. I love it. I love it. Or to
No,
your
to our-
fans?
To our fans, you know what? I love our team. I love the way that this team is going and coming. Like what is it? August 11th. You never know. You know what? We're in the playoffs, and everybody's got the same chance. And again, I like the vibe of our team, and hopefully, we'll come back with a big trophy.
Amazing. Coach, it's been outstanding. I have learned a lot. I have some things written down that I'm going to take to my own team that I coach, and I can't thank you enough.
Well,
You,
thanks for having me.
Thank you.
JR is like one of my best friends in the world, and to see him smile means the world to me. Coach Delano is quickly coming up that list as well. I think you're going to have to be a co-host more often, Coach. I don't know. I didn't really like the fact that your questions were better than mine. But
I like hockey, bud. I like hockey.
I know. We're going to work on that. I don't even know how you top this, JR. I don't even know where it goes. We're two dudes in the middle of Missouri, small population, and we're talking to like one of the most famous dudes in the NHL who's coaching.
Yeah.
Man, God be with you. I hope you win a Stanley Cup and you do it in epic fashion. And I hope I get to come and celebrate. I mean, seriously, I hope I get to.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy to have you to fly down here or drive down here or get down here. And,
the Tesla will take me straight there. It'll be
there we
okay.
go. I like that. There we
We didn't have that conversation.
The Tesla will take me straight there.
Chill mode.
That's right. Chill mode. I'm Coach Duke. He's J.R. Simmons. That's Coach Delano. He'll be coming back. And for everybody for Breakdown Sports, I cannot thank you enough, Coach. It's been absolutely amazing. JR, we might just have to stop here. No more podcasts. You can't go anywhere up from here. It's been absolutely incredible. We're out. Until next time, thank you very much.